The grocery store was quieter than usual that evening. The overhead lights gave everything a dull glow, and the hum of the refrigerators filled the air. Most people were rushing to grab dinner items before heading home, but for Emma it was a different mission. She clutched a small can of baby formula close to her chest as if someone might take it away. Her cart held nothing else. No milk, no bread, not even cereal. Just the formula. She had made peace with skipping dinner again. What mattered was that her 6-month-old daughter, Lily, would have a full bottle. When Emma reached the checkout line, she placed the can on the counter. Her heart was pounding harder than it should have. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small Ziploc pouch filled with quarters. The cashier, a young woman who looked like she was barely out of high school, gave her a polite smile. That smile faded as soon as she realized Emma was going to pay entirely in coins. "One moment," Emma whispered. Her fingers shook as she counted. One quarter after another clinked against the counter. The sound was sharp in the silence, and she could feel the eyes of people behind her. She didn't dare look up. "Ma'am," the cashier said gently, "this might take a while." "I know," Emma replied in a tight voice. "I'm almost done." Her mind screamed at her to hurry. She hated this feeling, hated how small it made her seem. Each coin felt like a public announcement of how broke she was. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. Then another person shifted impatiently. Emma swallowed hard. She couldn't stop now. She kept counting. $60 was what the formula cost this month. She had saved every coin from tips at the diner, from her own laundry change, even a few coins she found in the couch cushions of the house where she cleaned twice a week. Finally, she reached the last quarter. Her shoulders sagged in relief. "There," she said softly. The cashier started counting the coins again, and that was when Emma heard a voice. Calm, confident, almost like it was meant only for her. "Put it on my card." Emma froze. Slowly, she turned. The man standing behind her was not the type she usually ran into in her neighborhood grocery store. He wore a dark tailored suit. His shoes looked polished. His hair was neatly styled, and the watch on his wrist probably cost more than her car. He gave her a small nod as if to reassure her. He wasn't making a scene. He wasn't asking for attention. It was almost like he was whispering a secret. "I've got it," he said quietly. "Please, let me." Emma felt heat rise in her face. "No," she blurted out. "I can't let you do that." But the man just handed his card to the cashier, bypassing her completely. The cashier hesitated, then glanced at Emma. "Sir." She already. "It's fine," he cut in smoothly. "Please run it." Emma's eyes stung. She wanted to argue, to tell him she didn't need charity, but the words got stuck in her throat. The cashier swiped the card, bagged the formula, and handed it to Emma. "Here you go," the young woman said softly. Emma clutched the bag to her chest. She didn't know what to say. "Why would you do that?" she whispered, her voice shaking. The man gave her a steady look. "Because you shouldn't have to count quarters for your baby's food." Emma blinked, stunned by the simple way he said it. No pity in his tone. Just truth. She turned and hurried out of the store before the tears could spill. Outside, the night air felt cool on her skin. She walked quickly to the bus stop, clutching the formula bag like it was treasure. Her cheeks were burning. Kindness always caught her off guard. The man from the store followed her out. She saw him in her peripheral vision. He stopped a few feet away, giving her space. "Wait," he said. Emma froze, torn between gratitude and the urge to run. "I don't even know your name," she said without looking at him. "Daniel," he replied simply. "And you?" "Emma." "Emma," he repeated, almost as if committing it to memory. "You don't owe me anything. I just couldn't stand there and watch." She finally turned to face him. "People don't just do that for strangers. At least not where I come from." Daniel's expression softened. "Maybe they should." They stood in silence for a moment, the sound of traffic filling the space. Emma hugged the bag tighter. "Thank you," she said finally. The words felt too small, but they were all she had. Daniel nodded. "Take care of your little one." The bus pulled up, and Emma climbed aboard. She sat by the window, watching as Daniel walked to a sleek black car parked near the curb. The driver opened the door for him. He slid inside, and in seconds the car disappeared into traffic. Emma let out a long breath. Who was he? Back at her small apartment, Emma placed the formula on the counter. Lily was already stirring in her crib, her soft cries filling the room. Emma mixed the bottle quickly and cradled her daughter in her arms. As Lily drank, Emma thought about Daniel. His voice, his presence, his card. Who spends money on a stranger like that? She shook her head. People like him didn't belong in her world. He probably forgot about her the moment he drove away. But Daniel hadn't forgotten. In the back of the car, Daniel stared out the window, his mind still on the woman at the grocery store. He had seen many things in his life. Business deals worth millions, boardrooms full of powerful men, but nothing had struck him quite like the sight of a young mother counting quarters just to feed her child. "Rough day, sir?" his driver asked. Daniel shook his head. "Not for me, for someone else." He leaned back, but the image wouldn't leave his mind. Her trembling hands, the look in her eyes when she realized she didn't have enough. He had stepped in almost on instinct, but now he found himself wondering about her. Who was she? What was her story? The car rolled on, but Daniel knew one thing for certain. This was not the last time he would see Emma. The next day, Emma went about her routine. She worked a morning shift at the diner, wiping tables and refilling coffee cups. Her manager barked orders, the regulars complained about weak coffee, and her feet ached by noon. But through it all, her mind kept drifting back to last night. To Daniel. She tried to shake it off. He was just a stranger who had stepped in. Nothing more. But fate has a way of weaving lives together, even when you least expect it. Because that evening, when Emma returned to the diner for her second shift, a familiar figure walked through the door. Daniel. And he wasn't there by accident. The diner was half full when Emma stepped through the back door in her faded uniform. The air smelled of frying bacon and burnt coffee, and the familiar noise of clinking dishes filled the room. She tied her apron quickly and moved to the front, ready to start her evening shift. She was wiping down a booth when the doorbell jingled. Emma glanced up, her cloth pausing mid-swipe. Daniel. For a second, her chest tightened. He looked just as polished as the night before. A dark suit, crisp shirt, no tie this time, but still carrying himself with that calm authority she had noticed in the grocery store. He wasn't the kind of man who blended into places like this. He stood out, and every eye in the diner seemed to follow him as he slid into a booth. Emma tried to steady her breathing. Why was he here? Was it a coincidence? She picked up a notepad and walked over, forcing her voice to stay professional. "Good evening. Can I get you something to drink?" Daniel looked up at her with a faint smile. "Coffee. Black." She nodded and walked away quickly. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured the coffee. When she brought it back, he spoke before she could leave. "Emma." She froze. He remembered her name. "Yes." She asked cautiously. "Sit for a moment," he said. Her eyes flicked around the diner. Her manager was in the back yelling at the cook, and most of the customers were busy eating. Against her better judgment, she slid into the booth across from him. "I owe you an explanation," Daniel said. Emma frowned. "For what?" "For yesterday. For stepping in. I didn't want to embarrass you. I only wanted to help." Emma studied him. His voice was calm, sincere. Not pitying, not patronizing. Just honest. "You don't even know me," she said softly. "No," he admitted. "But I'd like to." Emma blinked. "Why?" Daniel leaned forward slightly. "Because I saw something in you. Strength. Determination. You didn't give up, even when people were staring. You did whatever it took to care for your child. That matters." Her throat tightened. No one ever said things like that to her. Most people looked at her like she was a failure, a girl who had made bad choices and was paying for them. She stood abruptly. "I should get back to work." Daniel didn't stop her. He only nodded. "I'll be here for a while. Take your time." Over the next hour, Emma tried to focus on her tables, but her eyes kept drifting back to Daniel. He stayed in the booth, sipping his coffee, occasionally checking his phone, but mostly watching her work. Not in a predatory way, but with quiet attention. When her shift finally slowed, she found herself back at his table. "You've been here 2 hours, she said. "Most people don't linger in this place." Daniel smiled faintly. "I'm not most people." Emma hesitated, then asked the question that had been nagging at her. "Who are you really?" He paused, as if debating how much to reveal. Then he said, I run a company downtown. Finance, investments, that sort of thing. Emma's stomach dropped, so she had been right. He wasn't just wealthy, he was powerful. You're a CEO, she whispered. Yes. She shook her head. And you're sitting in this greasy diner, talking to a single mom who barely makes rent. I'm sitting here, Daniel said, because you caught my attention in a way no one has in years. Her cheeks flushed. I don't understand. You don't have to, he replied. Not yet. Over the next few weeks, Daniel kept showing up at the diner. Sometimes he sat for an hour, sometimes just long enough to have a cup of coffee and ask how she was. Emma resisted at first. She didn't want to be someone's charity project. But slowly, against her own will, she began to open up. She told him about Lily. About how her daughter's father had left when she was still pregnant. About the 2 jobs she worked just to keep food on the table. About the nights she cried herself to sleep, wondering if she was failing her child. Daniel listened, really listened. He never interrupted, never judged. He asked questions that showed he cared. One night, as Emma cleared the table, he reached across and gently touched her hand. She froze at the warmth of his fingers. You're not failing, he said softly. You're stronger than you know. Her chest ached at his words. She pulled her hand back quickly, afraid of what she was starting to feel. But just as Emma began to trust him, life reminded her how fragile everything was. It happened late one Friday night. She returned to her apartment after her shift and found the door slightly open. Panic surged through her. She rushed inside and saw drawers pulled out, clothes thrown on the floor, her small TV missing. And then she heard it. Lily's cry. Emma raced to the crib. Thank God. Lily was safe. She scooped her up, trembling so hard she could barely stand. The apartment had been robbed. She sank to the floor, rocking her baby, tears streaming down her face. She had nothing left worth stealing, and yet someone had taken the little she had. The next morning, Daniel showed up at the diner as usual. Emma walked over to him with swollen eyes. What happened? He asked immediately. She broke down and told him everything. Without hesitation, Daniel stood. Come with me. What? You can't stay there. It's not safe. I don't have anywhere else to go, Emma whispered. Yes, you do, Daniel said firmly. With me. Emma thought he was insane. Go with him. To his world. But when she went home that night and saw the broken lock on her door, she knew she had no choice. The next day, Daniel sent a car. Emma packed what little she had. Some clothes, Lily's toys, a photo of her mother, and climbed in. When they pulled up to Daniel's home, her breath caught. It wasn't just a house. It was a mansion. White stone, glass windows, manicured lawns, and a fountain in the driveway. Inside, it was even more overwhelming. High ceilings, polished floors, walls lined with art she couldn't name. Emma clutched Lily tighter. She didn't belong here. Daniel appeared beside her. You'll be safe here, he said gently. That's all that matters. At first, Emma struggled to adjust. She felt like an outsider, a guest who didn't know the rules. But Daniel never treated her that way. He made sure Lily had everything she needed. He had a nursery prepared within days, stocked with clothes, toys, and formula. Emma tried to protest, but Daniel silenced her with one sentence. Let me help, please. And slowly, Emma began to let him. Weeks passed, and something unexpected blossomed between them. It wasn't just gratitude anymore. It was laughter over breakfast. Quiet talks in the evenings. The way Daniel would hold Lily as if she were his own. Emma found herself watching him when he wasn't looking. His steady presence, his kindness, his patience, feelings she had buried deep began to stir. But just when everything felt almost perfect, the past came crashing back. One night, there was a knock at the mansion door. Daniel answered, only to find a man standing there. Tall, rough-looking, with sharp eyes. Emma's blood ran cold. It was Lily's father. I heard she's staying here, he sneered. My kid. My woman. Emma stepped back, clutching Lily. You have no right to be here, she said, her voice shaking. The man smirked. I have every right. She's mine. Daniel's jaw tightened. You left them. You don't get to walk back in now. The man laughed darkly. What are you? Her bodyguard. Her sugar daddy. Before Daniel could respond, Emma's voice rang out, stronger than she felt inside. No, he's the man who was there when you weren't. The man who cared when you didn't. You are nothing to us. The man's smirk faded, his fists clenched. For a moment, Emma feared he would lash out. But Daniel stepped forward, his presence unshakable. Leave, Daniel said in a low, commanding tone. If you ever come near them again, you'll regret it. Something in Daniel's voice made the man hesitate. He muttered a curse and stormed off into the night. Emma's knees nearly buckled. She sank into a chair, clutching Lily, tears streaming down her face. Daniel knelt beside her. You're safe, he said firmly. I promise you're safe. And for the first time in years, Emma believed it. Months later, Emma stood on the balcony of Daniel's home, watching Lily play in the yard. The sun bathed everything in golden light. Daniel stepped beside her, his hand brushing hers. You've built a new life, he said quietly. You deserve it. Emma turned to him, her heart full. I wouldn't have survived without you. Daniel smiled softly. No, Emma, you survived long before me. I just made sure you didn't have to do it alone. She looked at him, really looked, and realized the truth. She had fallen for him. The man who once whispered, "Put it on my card," had become so much more. He had become her future. And as Daniel leaned in and kissed her gently, Emma knew her life had changed forever.